Welcome Joy GOCAA String International Competition Zoom meeting. I am very happy to invite Lawrence, Professor Joy, our Zoom meeting. He will talking with each contestant how to improve your skill really well in the future. Welcome, Lawrence, Professor.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Yes, you can, probably. Good. Nice to meet everybody. Looking forward to talking to you all about your playing. So if okay with you, Fang Fang, I'll just quickly introduce myself a tiny bit with who I am and what I do. So I am the head of string studies at Cal State University Northridge, which is in LA, Los Angeles. And I also have a festival that I run in Switzerland in the summers. Of course, this year, unfortunately, we had to cancel it for obvious reasons. An international festival is quite tricky to do when there are travel restrictions and quarantines and things like that. So we decided not to do it this summer. But starting next summer, we will do it again. The festival is for students age 14 and up through college and grad school. So whenever you are old enough, you can consider applying, and hopefully we'll see some of you there. So good. I have my list here in front of me, and I think we can start with Sylvia Xinyan Xie, if she's here.
Hi，请各位选手把你们的名字换成你们选手的名字，我会邀请你进入到这个跟评委一起的这个 talking，所以呢，请你们把你们的名字换成你们的这个选手的名字。I will find the contestant. Yeah.
Great. Okay, if Sylvia is here, I will start giving you some of my comments.
Sylvia, if you're in here, please you raise your hand. Okay, I can see.
Is Sylvia here?
In here.
Ah, here she is. Good. Hi, I can hear you. That's good. Do you have a camera? Do you want to turn it on?
Yeah, no problem. Give me a sec. Is it okay if I put in a virtual background?
Of course, of course. You can put Carnegie Hall in the background.
Oh, I don't have that.
You can do whatever you want.
Thank you.
Oh, there you are. Okay, good, good, good. So, if I remember correctly, you played the Vivaldi A minor concerto, right?
Yeah.
Good, good, good. So, in my comments, I wrote that let's go straight to the sort of important things which I think will help you. Was it the last movement you played?
It was. Don't actually remember.
No, it was the first movement. Was it? I have my fiddle here. Was it? It was this movement, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So what I wrote is that as soon as you have accidentals, in other words, you suddenly see sharps and flats, appear. That means the music modulates, and when it modulates, the intonation gets a little trickier. So you have to pay special attention to the intonation. For example, I'm trying to trying to find here. So now suddenly we're in D major. in G major, you see, but the piece is in A minor. So when you see accidentals, it modulates, and then you really pay attention to the intonation. Now we're in C major. Do you see how many times it modulated in those measures, right?
Yeah.
So that is where you're going to pay special attention to the intonation, that every finger is just in the right place. So that's one of the comments I had for you. Something else I wrote, to work on loosening your right hand and also your left hand. So loosening means, you know, when you have, of course, our hand is full of joints, right?
Yeah.
So it's bones, but the individual bones are connected by joints. And when we use our joints, it means we're loose. When we don't use our joints, then things are a little tight.
Okay.
So loosening your joints, you can just practice that with single notes, you know, something like. You don't even have to play any real notes. You can just play an open string and figure out how to use your joints and be very, very smooth with it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Now the left hand is a little more complicated to loosen fingers. The first thing you can do to loosen your fingers is actually lift your fingers higher. You see, something like that. So you could do a scale. You know, something very, very simple like that, and just lift your fingers higher, which probably will make them looser.
Okay.
And those are sort of my main comments to you as a young violinist.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good. So the next student I had.
I can leave the meeting now, right?
Exactly. So we're kind of done, you and I. And I'm going to go to Veronica. Hanfei Jiang. Hi, are you Veronica? Okay, good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Good. Where are you?
In Canada, British Columbia.
Oh, okay, so it's the same time like here.
Yeah.
It's because I'm in Los Angeles, so it's 6 o'clock where you are. Good.
Yeah.
I can see the sun is still shining behind you. Good. So you played Beethoven, the Spring Sonata. What I really like about your playing is that you move kind of naturally, especially at the beginning. You kind of go into it with a lot of sort of energy. I think I remember your video. You kind of go with motion, which is really good. So don't change that. Okay, keep moving, which is good. So a suggestion for you is practice shifting. Now, when we shift to upper positions, you know, it can get tricky. And of course, when you play things like this Beethoven Sonata, it does shift quite a lot. And there are things like Shevchik. Have you ever heard of Shevchik?
No.
That's okay. Maybe you can ask your teacher about him. He wrote a lot of exercises, and he wrote, you know, I can write it in the chat here if it works. Sevcik. Oh, it only goes to panelists. Let me see. Okay, I need to write it again. Shevchik. Oh, it doesn't let me type. Never mind. It's Sevcick. He wrote exercises that have to do with shifting, and they're very, very smart. And it's Opus 8, and it goes like this. Faster and faster, and so on and so forth. You go, and you always make sure you shift very, very clean. You and you always make sure you bring the thumb with you, so that things are very organized when you shift. And if you go through that whole book, it's actually a very thin book, and you do all the exercises, then your positions get really, really good. So that's one of the main things that I would suggest for you, is keep practicing shifting. The next thing I wrote is practice with a more refined and artistic sound. So I think as you started the piece, it was very nice. And just keep that sort of that light beauty that this piece has. It's very, very beautiful music. And it's maybe easiest in the first phrase, and then it gets a little harder and harder and harder as you go along. And I think what I noticed when I watched you is the beginning was gorgeous, and then it got a little less gorgeous. So you want to keep things really refined and artistic in terms of the sound. Okay. And the last thing I wrote is to keep the music light. So as you go through the piece, and let me see if I can find it here. Beethoven Sonata F, for example. Right? That things never get too angry or anything, but that the style kind of stays light and almost happy. So think about the character of this music. Even when you have so to keep that, the general idea of beauty in the music, to keep that alive as you go through the entire piece. All right? Those are my comments for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye.
Goodbye.
All right. Fang Fang, if you're still there, is this going about the way you imagined?
Hello?
Yeah. Is this okay what I'm doing with the students?
Yeah. Curtis in here.
Good. Okay. Curtis is... There he is. Hi, Curtis. Very nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hi. So you played really well, and Bruch Concerto is very ambitious, and I think you came up to the challenge and really played this piece with a lot of fire, which is great. So congratulations. So I wrote in my comments that you let me see here, that you play with a very rich romantic sound and a lot of power, which is great. Now, a piece like this, which is powerful and technically difficult, there are two main things. There's the power, and then there is the technical difficulty. So the technical things, you want to clean those up a little bit more, and the question is, how do you practice something that's difficult? Do you just go with a lot of fire and you just try and hopefully it will get better? Or are you organized in how you practice? That's kind of a a question you want to ask yourself is, how do I practice? All right. And maybe your teacher can define that for you, what it means to be a smart practicing person. So I can give you a couple of ideas. Practicing something difficult, the first thing, let's say, let's take something like this. The first way to practice it is very, very slow. Just smooth, legato, and slow. Okay? And the second way is you can do it staccato, every note. And if there's a note that's out of tune, you can kind of move your finger and play the note again. Let's say this note is sharp, move your finger and play the note again. So that is the second way of practicing. Then the next way is to do it with rhythms. Have you ever practiced with rhythms, with dotted rhythms?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. You can probably do a little bit more of it. All right? And then you do the other rhythm. And so on and so forth. And then the next thing you can do is you kind of bunch up your notes. You start with maybe 2 notes, and then 3 notes, and then 4, and you kind of add notes at a time. And you always make sure it's very, very clean. And then the last thing you can do is you turn on the metronome and you just do it very, very, methodically. Nice and slow. And then you gradually speed it up, and there you are. So I think your main thing is practicing technical passages in a very, very organized way. And this kind of shows you a little bit what the practice methods are. And let's put it this way, any of these practice methods is better than just play it and hope for the best, and try it again and try again and again and again. But to kind of slow down and really figure things out. Does that kind of make sense?
Yep.
Good. So that is what I would suggest for you, because then your technical passages get better and better and better, and the music is already so good. You're a real musician. You play with great fire. So then your technique gets better too, and then you're good. All right. Good. So it was very nice to meet you. I'll move on to the next person.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So next,
Ariana.
Ariana.
But I cannot see Ariana. If you in here, please raise your hand. But Professor, you can keep to talking with her, because I will recording. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, good. Then
Thank you.
I'll give Ariana my comments as if she was here.
Oh, in China, she in China. I see the.
She's in China.
So I will recording with to her. Yeah.
Great. Okay, good.
Just talking.
All right, good. So we have. Let me quickly look at my notes here, and okay. So what I wrote for you, Ariana, is that your playing is quite effortless, which is really good. So, you're generous with your bow, which is nice. It's very loose. You use a lot of bow, which is very good. And you're also quite organized with the bow. So the one thing for you is that artistically, I think you can be more expressive. You can say something with the music in every phrase rather than just playing your notes. So I'll play you a phrase of the Vivaldi concerto, and I think you played the first movement if I remember correctly. And I'll play it once like you did with organized, beautiful bow, and the second time I'll play it being more artistic. So, or maybe. So that was, smooth, no problems, but artistically it didn't say much, right? It didn't have much passion in it. So if I phrase more, if I'm more musical. So you can, I think, music is made up of having many inflections, if you understand inflections. Like in speech, we don't say every word with the same expression, but we put accents in speech. The same thing in music. They don't have to be hard accents, but certain notes are more important, other notes are less important. So that is where you should go with your playing, which is to start saying more personal things, more artistic things. So the first thing you can do is, like I said, there are more important notes, less important notes. So the more important notes, you would just play them louder, and the less important notes, you would play less loud. So for example, probably everybody agrees that the D, first of all, it's the highest note, probably also the most important note. So there's an important note. And the next note is less important, right? So more bow on the important notes, less bow on the less important notes. So I think this is the main thing for you, which is to just vary things more. Some notes have more vibrato, some notes have less vibrato, and to vary the dynamics. Good, I hope that makes a lot of sense. And I'll move on to my next person. And that would be Ethan. Is Ethan here?
Hello.
Hi, Ethan. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. You too. How are you?
You're fine. You're a fine player. I have to say, you play very well, and I enjoyed really hearing your Beethoven and your Brahms. It's good job. Very, very good job. So the comments I have for you is that, yes, the refinement. So you have a strong sound and a good way of just getting around the violin. Now the next step for you to kind of get on the next level would be to refine everything. And there's a very simple way of refining your sound, which is you practice each phrase. You can practice it first very, very slow and very soft, and then you take the same phrase and you play it a little louder and a little faster, play it even louder and even faster. And as you do that sort of practice with each phrase, you will start to realize that things become more refined automatically. So the sound is more noble, more beautiful, right? Then the next thing I wrote is listen for vibrato and what the individual notes want to express, so that you get away from playing notes, many notes, right? All of these pieces have a lot of notes, and what do the notes really want to say? So let me get the Beethoven ready here. Number 8. And it was the first movement you played, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do the notes want to say? You see, so there's a lot of, in a way, there's a lot of information in this music. You know, some of it is funny, some of it is kind of getting a little intense. And now if I play the same 2 lines again and I don't go into those characters, then you will see it gets a little, everything starts to sound the same. So that we don't want, right? Do you start to realize that I'm playing everything the same? Yeah. Right, and so we want to get out of that and start characterizing the music. So when is it funny? When is it serious? When is it maybe even angry? Or, you know, there's so many different characters, especially in Beethoven. So that's where you want to go with this piece. Let me maybe show you another phrase. You know, very funny, right? It's humorous. And then suddenly he puts his foot down and it gets very, very intense. So to change all these characters all the time, especially with Beethoven, it changes, you know, every 3-4 seconds there's a different character. So what you could do actually is take your score, first movement is only 2-3 pages, and write in some adjectives. What are the characters in your opinion? And then go more into these sort of characters. But that's my main thing for you. Other than that, I think, again, your violin playing is very, very good. So, and since it is already so good, you can now get to that next level by characterizing the music more.
Okay, I get it.
Great, fantastic. It was nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you. You too. Have a nice one.
Yes, you too. Bye. All right, that was Ethan. So Vince is next, and I see your name already. Do you have you can turn your camera on. Hi, Vince.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you. Where are you?
In British Columbia.
British Columbia. Okay, good. Good. So, yes, Bach Presto, Road Caprice number 21. So what I liked about it is that it's quite clean, especially your Bach. Actually, the Road too. It's very clean, and it's very steady. Now the question is there maybe more in the music than playing it steady? And of course, the answer is yes. So a little bit like what I was just telling Ethan is to go into the character of the phrasing a little bit more, even if it's all 16th notes. So in the case of the Bach, rather than You see, I played everything without any change in sound. But now I'm going to show you how you can phrase things more. For example, the first thing, it starts high and it goes down, right? So imagine it's like a waterfall of notes. You see, so what I did is a diminuendo. Because the music goes down and then the music goes up. And then it goes higher. And it goes even higher. So when the sequences go down, get softer, and when the sequences go up, get stronger. And before you know, if you start doing that in the Bach, then you have, then it's more fun to listen to and it's more interesting, right? So something like, and you see there was a sequence coming down, right? Lower, lower. So it's to, in other words, to show your sequences with dynamics, okay? That's my main suggestion. And then in the road, I wrote that a similar comment. Again, you played it very well, but you want to show a little bit the phrasing a little bit more. So let me just quickly open this road. Was it number 21?
Yeah.
You think?
I think so.
Yes. So you see, I'm not playing every note exactly the same. Probably I'm playing the second note softer. And I'm really leaning onto the G flat. So dynamics is, I think, the most important thing for you to make the music come alive a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay, good. So those are my comments for you. Good job. So take care, and I'll go to my next person.
Jia Yoshi. Jia Yoshi in here, please raise your hand. Okay, Professor, you can keep talking. I think not in here, so you can keep talking. I already reporting.
Good. So that would be Jiao Yu, right? Andy Xu.
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay. I'm having so many little things open on my computer. I have to jump around. Okay, good. So Beethoven number 8, Brahms Hungarian Dance. Good. So also for you, I wrote a little bit that there could be more feeling in your music. And feeling does not always mean, you know, romantic, playing romantically. Feeling just means playing with expression. Romanticism is kind of is its own thing. A lot of romanticism has to do with being very personal, or the idea of love in the music. That's romantic. And that's wonderful in the Brahms. Now in Beethoven, it's a little different. Beethoven is still classical, but classical does not mean without feeling, all right? So again, it's similar to what I've said to other students, which is to play with more feeling and to put a little bit more character in everything. So you can do that by, for example, to start a scale with very, very slow notes and cultivate a truly beautiful sound. You can vibrate a little bit, something like that. It can be just one octave, and really listen to your sound. And then you can maybe start slurring 2 notes, and you want to not lose any of that sound. And then maybe you can start slurring 3. And then 4. And then before you know, you have many notes on one bow, and the sound is always artistic and always in a way full of feeling and full of character. So that is my advice to you, is to start practicing a slow scale and see where it takes you, because a lot of in music, a lot of it has to do with exploring what kind of sound your violin gives you. And also explore what kind of sound you hear in your head. Not just play notes, but actually listening to them. So slow scales is one of the best ways to do it. Musical scales, not just notes. So that is my main comment for Andy. So if now Michaela is here. Jabao.
Yeah, next is Jabao. Jabao, yeah. If you in here, please raise your hand. 如果你在这里，请你举一下手。Jabao. 你要是在这里的话，请你举一下手。Not in here. Professor, keep going.
Sure. So you played the Monty Chardash, and yeah, I like it. It's well played. It's very well played, and it's clean. Now it is a showpiece, and I'm quickly opening my Monty, if I can find it. There it is. So it's a showpiece, and when we play showpieces, we want to be a little bit more of like a circus performer. So a lot of it has to do with charm, with humor, with entertainment. And I think you can be more of an entertainer. So, for example, the opening, it's the accompaniment is very, in a way, steady. But it doesn't mean you have to play very steadily. I think you can be a little more imaginative, speed up certain notes, slow down other notes. Take time. And you see, you can then maybe speed up your 8th notes rather than everything the same tempo. So you can say more if you play with more rubato. So there's a lot of opportunity for just being very personal here, and not everybody has to do it the same way. These are just ideas of how I would do it, and I think you should really see where your imagination takes you. Good. So first of all, more rubato. Then the second thing is, in general, see if you can develop your vibrato quite a bit more, so that you don't need to vibrate every note the same, but occasionally you want to have a lot of vibrato on some of the notes and play with, lots of energy. So for example, when you get to here, You see, so these are the two main things how I think you can make your playing have more fire. Is rubato, so more flexible with the tempo, and vibrato, you know, really get the arm or the hand moving more there. And that is it. Good job. All right, so the next...
Selena in here.
Selena.
Hi.
There you are. Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Are you also in Canada?
Yes.
Okay, good. And I guess are most of you, I don't know, do you know where everybody else is from? Are you all from British Columbia or?
I think most of us are.
Probably, yeah. Okay, good. All right, so you play very, very well. I really enjoyed what you did. I wrote in my comment that you play with good energy, which is the most important thing, because, you know, music is, in a way, we're showing a work of art for an audience. And I know it's a little strange when you just make a recording for a camera that's standing there. But I think you really kept in mind that eventually people are going to watch what you recorded for a piece of electronic equipment. And you kept that in mind, and so what you did is you played with energy. And the energy came across even when I was watching it through my computer. So that is a real, I mean that as a compliment to you. That's really great.
Thank you.
Excellent. So, good speed. I think the tempo, Bach, presto, good. Beethoven, excellent too. And a lot of character. Okay, so my suggestion number one is to change your bow hold. Now you're going to have to talk to your teacher about that. And, you know, that's, of course, that's just a suggestion. So I think the main thing is that your joints should be round. And you probably already heard that at some point in your life. Or probably, right. So there's a reason why we want to have round joints. And the reason is, and you can try it out right now, if you hold your bow and let's say, for example, your pinky, you put it straight like this. Now, this muscle gets very, very tight. And this tension can go up the entire arm. So not ideal, right? So now if you make your fingers round like this, now this muscle gets very, very soft and everything is more relaxed. So I give you another example. If, for example, your thumb, you know, when you hold the bow, if your thumb is straight like this, then this gets tight, this muscle. And again, there's tension, which we don't really need. Now, if you bend your thumb, I don't know if you can see, you bend your thumb, then this muscle gets soft. So this is just kind of a way of explaining to you why most violinists have their joints rounded so that the muscles are nice and relaxed. So that is one of my comments to you. All right, and the other reason is, so not only are you then more relaxed, but when the bow comes down on the violin, things are more elastic and the sound is round too. So if your joints are round, the sound is round and elegant and beautiful. And when things are a little tight here, then the sound can sometimes be hard. You see? Okay. So this elasticity needs to come from your fingers. Now, why did I write that? I think in the Bach it was probably not so obvious, but probably in the Beethoven. Let me see if I can find a good place. Beethoven number 8. So let's say... For example there, so we have sforzando, right? And then sforzando again, sforzando again. So if you do that with tight fingers, it can be hard. If you do it with round fingers, then you see how that was more elastic in terms of the sound?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that's that, and probably also when you when you play spiccato. It's that sort of thing whenever it's spiccato. And that is really actually my main news for you. Other than that, I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Good. See you later. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Okay, bye. So next is Lucas Changshi. Is he around? Yeah, there he is. If you have your camera on. Okay, great. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
How are you doing? Good. So you played the hornpipe and Vivaldi A minor.
Yes.
Good. So my comment is that you play very, very steady, which is good. So you have a good sense of, a steady tempo. That is very good. Now, your main thing is that the music needs to have more, more different kinds of sound, rather than, kind of having the same sound on every bow stroke. So the first thing to do is figure out what are some of the dynamics you can do. And sometimes dynamics are written in the music, but sometimes dynamics are also something that you should be thinking about and just kind of explore. And the worst thing that can happen is you go to your next violin lesson and the teacher says, you're doing a diminuendo here. I think the phrase goes up and you should do a crescendo. And then that can be discussed. So it's okay to have your own opinions, I think, and just put some dynamics in the music so it starts to sound a little bit more interesting. And as I said, the worst thing that can happen is somebody disagrees and then you can talk about it, okay? So, right, so that was in the Vivaldi. So let me show you maybe a different phrase than I showed other persons, if I can find the Vivaldi. Well, you could just go from the beginning. For example, that first phrase. So if I play everything with the same sound, right, it can put people asleep, right? But you want to wake people up and give them some entertainment. So, for example, you could go for that note, when you have, especially when you have repeated things, maybe do a crescendo every time. And before you know, the music becomes a little bit more alive. Now, the one more comment for you is the wrist. So the wrist in your bow hand, the wrist is made to do this. When you don't use it, things get tight. So essentially just use the wrist, and you can practice that by doing just some open strings, down bow, up bow, and just starting to see what happens in the wrist. So when you do down bow, the wrist goes down, and when you do an up bow, the wrist comes up. And do that as an exercise to really get the wrists very, very loose. Okay, does that sound like something you could use?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, nice to meet you.
You too. Nice to meet you too.
Good, take care.
Bye.
Next is Zhang Zhang.
Xiang in here, please raise your hand. Xiang Zhang. I think not in here. Professor, you keep talking.
Good. All right, Chrysler and Sides. Now, so the comments I wrote when I watched your videos, the most important thing is that the music becomes in a way more fluid. So I think things are a little stuck with the bow, and make sure when you play longer notes that you don't pulse in the middle of the note. So for example, the Sides concerto, whether it's this one, so there are 3 long notes, right? Rather than showing where the middle of the note is, just let the bow flow naturally to its end. Or if it's the other Sides concerto, it's just to find a way for that arm, the bow arm, to flow uninterruptedly. So I think the pulsing in the middle of long notes is sometimes used to get the right rhythms, to make sure you count your half notes or your dotted quarter notes. But when you're talking about music, pulsing is not an ideal thing. So maybe at the beginning it's okay, but then as soon as you've maybe practiced a week with pulsing, you need to get rid of it. Otherwise the music starts to sound in a way chopped up. Good. So the other thing is posture. Your violin is not quite up, and up means really, I would say, at least horizontal to the ground, if anything even a tiny bit higher than that, rather than it facing down. So you might need to figure out your shoulder pad and your chin rest, so that ideally without too much effort it just kind of sits there correct. There are many different shoulder pads and chin rests, and you might have to try 2 or 3 different ones out to see what makes your violin just rest so that the violin is up rather than facing down. Good. Those are my comments for Jiang. All right, next would be Jiu.
I think Xiang Zhang in here, but I see that's a hand, but I don't know why she not joined the tennis.
Oh,
yeah.
As long it's recorded, so it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. I will send recorded it to you. So, and next person is Jia Yu. Next person is Jia Yu, right?
G-U-G.
G-U-Qu. G-U-Qu. You in here? Okay, and I see
We're all getting really good at pronouncing Chinese names.
Okay, Professor, you can keep talking.
Good. Okay. So Bach Presto and Road number 17. Let me find Road number 17. Yes. Okay. So Bach Presto, good energy, I wrote. And I think it is a little bit squeezed with both hands. So finding a way again to be loose, just like I told one of the former students that I just talked to. Finding looseness in the hands is very, very important. So you could just, even without the violin, you could hold the bow and just kind of start moving your hands, moving your fingers, make sure all your joints are working. So that's number one. Number two, take the violin and do some strokes, very basic strokes on an open string, and make sure you use the joints of your hand. Something like that. Now, if you curve all the fingers of your bow hand, again, it's easier that there's a certain smoothness there. If you have straight fingers, there's a problem. So you want to really curve and have your pinky, your little finger next to the ring finger. If your pinky is out there, it will be straight. And straight fingers are tight. Okay, so that's the most important thing. So then the squeezing here will become very loose. Okay, so that's the bow hand. The left hand, same thing. If you want to have a looser hand, be round with all the fingers and lift them quite high just to get them moving. You want to constantly have motion. And then in the road, I wrote down that you could vibrate some of the notes. I know the entire etudes is eighth notes, but we can occasionally even vibrate some eighth notes, even if they're short, put a little vibrato on them. So a little bit of vibrato will just make the music come alive a little bit more. Other than that, a good job also for the attention to the details with the accents. Very good.
Okay. I think the division D already finished, right?
Yes. So next would be Emma, and that is a different division.
Okay. I think now is take a break. You can drink little water. I have some fun, yeah, with the contestant. And okay. I thought maybe someone in here. Emma Fong. Okay.
Yeah. Let me see. Emma is a
Fong.
different. Yeah. Emma is division A.
Oh, Emma is division. Oh, yes. Next.
Right.
Okay.
Good. So I will take a break. Should we do 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
No, just 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, good. Emma, we will talk to you in about
Later.
2 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
soon.
Okay, now it's polling time. Who is your favorite contestant in the jury division D? Because you can choose. You can choose yourself. You can choose your fan. Okay, please vote. Give you 2 minutes. You can vote yourself, and you can vote your friend. 我们有一点点时间，我们可以做一个小小的游戏，请你们为你们喜欢的选手投票，也可以为你自己投票，也可以为你的好朋友投票。我们中间有个小小的休息的时间，也是跟大家玩一个小小的游戏，请你们就是为你们喜欢的选手投个票，为你的朋友投个票，为你自己也投个票啊。我也让评委休息2分钟的时间。我们在1周之后会给大家发email， 告诉大家听，就是你的就是会把这个评语再发给每一位同学，而且呢，我们也会发你们的分数奖项给你，所以呢，请你们1周后留意一下你们的这个邮箱。刚才如果今天没有在这个 Zoom meeting 的同学，也不用着急，因为我们已把它录下来，然后你们可以进入到我们在下一周的时候，你可以进入到我们的 GOCAA music.com 上面去看一下就是评委对你的这个评语啊，还有就是对你们的一些建议啊，所以就算今天没有在这个 Zoom 的这个同学也不要紧，我们还是会把这个video save 下来，然后发给你们。All contestants, we will send email to your email for one week after. So please check your email next week. 好，现在我们结束我们的 Poetry Time， 大家看看，哇哦！It's a fun time. Okay, turn to Professor.
Great. Okay, I see. The polls have come in. Good, good. Curtis looks like he's ahead of everybody. Good. So then let us continue with Emma.
Hi.
It is so nice to meet you.
Me too.
And where do you live?
I live in Vancouver, BC.
British Columbia. Good. Okay, good. So I enjoyed watching your video. I really did. Now, how old are you? Can you remind me?
8.
You're 8?
Yeah, 8.
Oh, 8. Okay. You're very young. So, and you know, when you started the Bach E major concerto, I thought that is a fine job. And then I immediately thought, you know, as you go through the piece, it gets much harder than at the beginning, and you played everything equally well. So you really learned the whole first movement very, very well. That's excellent. Good job. And you also memorized it well, and you have good posture. I like that. You're very good posture, and your left hand is excellent. So lots of good things. So the suggestions I have for you is mostly about the bow hand. I think your bow hand is a little bit stiff, just a little bit. And maybe you've been watching the previous hour where I've kind of explained that having looser joints, you know, being more flexible in the hands, in both hands, is a good idea. So I think for you, it's the same thing. Being a little bit more loose with your bow hand, you know, using the joints, okay?
Okay.
Okay, now, the reason why I'm saying that is the sound will then be a little bit more polished. So if you don't use your joints enough, right? Now, if you use your joints, you see how things sound very different. So that's the most important thing. Now, I also wrote in the comments that for both the Bach and the Beethoven, you can start playing with a little bit more feeling. Yeah. So rather than just playing the notes really well, put a little bit of your own personality in there. So a lot of human feelings, and start to think, what is the feeling? I think that the feeling of this music is very loving in a way, very sweet, right? So can you make it sound sweet, you know? And then before you go from phrase to phrase and you start to think, what is the story of this music? So that could be actually a fun thing for you to do, is to take a piece of music, can be Beethoven, can be Bach, or your next piece, and to come up with a story. What are the characters in each section, and then start to put a little bit more feeling in the music that way. So those are the two things: more feeling and loose bow hand. Does that sound good?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, good. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Bye. Yeah, I was thinking that you are sisters. Good. So, so you are Anne, right? Good. So you play the same pieces. And I wrote that you play with a big energy, which is really good. By the way, are you the same age? So you're also 8 years old. Mm-hmm. Good. And you have a lot of character in the music, and again, the energy is really good. Now the suggestion for you is that you can have a little bit more variety in the sound, so that not everything has the same energy, but that some notes are gentler, others are stronger, so a little bit more up and down in the character in the sound. So for example, so the B is different than the first two notes. So the music is constantly changing, right? It's not all the same. Do you kind of understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Good. And generally, if there's one quality of your sound you want to really work on, is having an elegant sound. So sometimes, when the bow is kind of scrubbing on the string, then the sound is a little hard. So you can use a little bit more bow, so faster bow. You see how the sound gets more elegant. With less bow, less elegant, more bow, more elegant. So that's how you can kind of work on your sound a little bit, is using more bow. Good. And then just one more comment for you, which is to work on the vibrato. And of course you're 8 years old, but I think you're old enough to now vibrating a little bit more, so that the music can have more, more color there if you vibrate more. All right? Good. So it's very nice to meet both of you, and see you later. Good. Next is, yes, Alia. Do I pronounce your name correct?
It's Alia.
Alia. Okay. Good. Alia. So you played the Vivaldi A minor and the hornpipe. And I wrote in my comments that you play very steady and very clean, which is really good. That's a good job for that. Clean is good and steady is very good. Now, I think the tempo is a little bit too slow. Because you're quite a fine violinist. It's probably time to start speeding it up a little bit more. So I think, if I remember correct, your tempo was... Does that sound about right? Was that about your tempo?
Yeah.
Right, you see, for an allegro, it's just a little bit too slow. So, it's just speed it up. but you can easily do that. That will not take a lot of work. So another really good thing. Oh yeah. So I think. Hi, Sean. Nice to meet you. Can you press your mute button? Good. Thanks, Sean. Okay, good. So, Alia, your bow arm is very loose, which is great. I really like that. So the main thing is faster tempo, and the second thing is to have a little bit more dynamic up and down. So that again, not all the notes have the same dynamic, but in each phrase there's a lot of variety in there. And then you're going to work a little bit on your vibrato too. How old are you, by the way, Alia?
8.
You're 8. Okay, good. So it's the perfect time, the perfect age to start working on the vibrato. Okay? And then because your sound will become more rich, more interesting, you will have a deeper sound, and it will be really good. So good job. I think you did really, really well.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Take care. All right, so Sean, you are next. If you're there, you can turn on your camera. There you are. Good. How are you, Sean? You're good. Thumbs up. So now you can unmute yourself. Can you find that button? Great. Excellent. So I love a lot of things about you. I think you have a lot of sort of fire and energy, which is really good. So you want to keep that up. The fire.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, there are a few technical things you have to work on, which probably you're aware of. The first thing is the bow hand. All your joints need to be much smoother, much looser. So if you've been watching before, I've showed a couple of students how to just on an open string, do that 20, 30, 40 times and be very, very, very loose with your hands. That's very, very important because things are a little stiff on them. And then the next thing is watch how you stand. Your feet are a little bit too close together, so it's hard to move. When you stand with your feet a little further, then you have a better stance. It's like when you do a sport, when you play tennis or soccer or whatever you do, you have to have a good stance. So your feet are very, very important. Okay, not too close together. And then the third thing is watch how you hold the violin. So your violin is too far down. I'm sure you've seen very, very good violinists. They all have their violin nice and up, right? So you want to maybe work with your teacher on having a better posture for your violin. And those are my comments for you.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay. Next. Yeah, so Sean, you can mute yourself. Okay, good. So next is Merak. If we have Merak here. Hi, Merak.
Hi.
So, hi. You played, you played 3 pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Bach Bourrée, Küchler, and the Donken. Okay. I wrote that your playing is refined, which is really nice. When there's a sensitivity in the play, that's really good. So you probably will always have that when you play music. So that's great. Now on the other side, it's a little bit cautious. So you want to give it a little bit more energy and a little more sort of courage, that you go at your pieces with greater, with just greater energy. And you know, because you're a refined young man, I'm not too worried that the music is not going to be beautiful anymore. I think if you just give it a lot of courage, then it's going to be really good. So what we want as a listener is that the music becomes more alive, because when you play very cautious, then the music is a little bit asleep and you want to wake it up. Does that kind of ring a bell? It does. Good. Okay, now also I wrote work on having a more healthy posture. So a healthy posture means things are up, you stand right up, and your violin again is nice and up, and you can practice it this way. You bring your violin sort of like this, and then you can lower it so that it's essentially horizontal. So this would be horizontal, maybe even a little higher than horizontal, but not down. Okay, it's a little tricky. I know playing the violin we want to do that, but eventually you will find a way where the violin is nice and up. Okay, so posture, I think, is one of the very, very important things for you to work on, so that everything gets unfolded and you're just standing upright and the violin is up. So that's it. Good job.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Alias, you can turn on your camera. There you are. How are you?
I'm okay.
You're okay. Good.
Yeah.
So you also played 3 pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So I think you learned them well, which is good. And you also you played them straight through. It's good. Now, in your case, the bow arm and the hand and the finger. So this entire thing here needs a little bit loosening. And it probably rings a bell to you. I'm sure maybe your teacher has mentioned to be very, very loose in your joints. Did your teacher ever mention that?
Yeah, he always does.
Okay. Right, you see, so it's kind of obvious when we watch the video, and I'm sure when you watch it yourself, you probably see that too. So, you know, I'm sure your teacher can give you some exercises how to loosen things up. And again, just do open strings. You don't need to use any left hand. Just start with open strings. Or the first thing you could actually do is just play at the tip and make sure the elbow opens and closes, open, close. You see, I'm just playing at the tip and I make sure I'm using this joint rather than, you see, where I don't use it. So you're just loosening this joint. And then the next thing you can do is maybe do an up bow and go to the frog, and you just make sure all the joints are nice and soft. So soft joints is a good idea to think about. Soft. And then you can do the up bow and you stay on the string. And again, are you soft or are things kind of getting tight? You want to be soft. Gentle, relaxed. And then maybe you can do some whole bows. And just making sure all your joints are really relaxed. And then the last exercise you can do is do a whole bow and then 4 short notes, and then a whole bow, and then 4 short notes, whole bow, 4 short notes, whole bow, 4 short notes. exercise or this sort of this series of exercise can really help you just really loosening your bow arm, which is kind of your most important thing. All right?
Okay.
Good. And that is actually, that's kind of my main thing. The other thing is the vibrato. You want to start working on developing the vibrato. So those are the two things: loose bow arm and vibrato. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Take care. Nice to meet you.
Okay, thank you.
So next would be Annie. And there she is. Hi, Annie. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Good, good. How old are you?
8.
You're also 8. Everybody is 8 years old, or a lot of people are 8 years old today. Good. So you played Vivaldi A minor and Mazur's number 3, which I find a very interesting etude. What I like is you use a lot of bow, and you're kind of, you're very generous with your bow arm, which is really good. So you want to keep doing that. That's really good.
Okay.
The other thing is your rhythm is very good, and your sense of time and timing and tempo is really steady. So that's all really good. You don't need to change any of that. Now, my suggestion how to get even better with what you're doing is, and I'm reading my notes. That's right. You can do some slow, maybe do a scale with very, very slow notes and start to listen to the sound. And it's very simple. You just start to listen. And then after a while, maybe you play the scale once or 2 or 3 times. You start to think, how do I want to change my sound? And because it's very important like that to start to connecting what you're hearing with what you're playing, or what you're playing with what you're hearing. So the two need to become more connected, that you're not just playing the notes without listening, but you're starting to listen better. And then the sound will get more and more beautiful. It will become more and more interesting, more and more artistic.
Okay.
So for example, you can do it with different dynamics. You start soft. And then you can start getting louder. And maybe even stronger. But you see, when you start very soft, that's where you start listening. And then just do it louder and louder, and eventually I think the sound will really get beautiful. Okay?
Okay.
Good. And I think I have one more suggestions. Oh yeah. So when you do your Mazur's number 3 etude, there. When you get to the frog, make sure your fingers are curved. So before you play the next note, everything is round here, rather than, arriving with straight fingers, right? Round is good. And those are my 2 main things. So sound quality by doing slow notes, and round fingers. All right?
Okay. Thank
Good.
you.
You're welcome. Very nice to meet you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
And Marvin is twins. Huh?
Marvin is where?
Twins. Is a,
Oh, it's
okay.
a twin.
Or maybe I in here.
Is Marvin here?
Okay, I looking.
There is Marvin. Hi, Marvin. It's nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hi. So my comments for you are that, you know, this Beethoven Sonata number 8, it's a very artistic piece, all right? And I think it needs a little bit more fire from you. It needs just more energy, you know. Tackle it with like your life depends on it. Lots of energy and in general a little bit more bow. I think you're a little too cautious with your bow. So if you start using more bow, that's the easiest way to play with more energy, using more bow. And then the vibrato is kind of the same thing. You know, fire up this little engine here and get it really cooking, your vibrato. Then I think you can see what's happening to the music right away. More bow, more vibrato, and you'll get it going. So another suggestion I have is that I think also your feet are a little bit too close together. How do you usually stand? I think you don't stand far away with your feet, right? Yeah. So this is too close. You want to be about like your shoulders. That's how you want to have your feet, because then you can move better, you know. Good. So it's a little stoic. I think because your feet are close together, you don't move a lot. Because if your feet are close together and you move, you're going to fall over, right? So if your feet are further apart, you can move and you don't fall over. So I think the life in the music, that's kind of what we want. Okay? And otherwise, good job. And
Thank you.
it's nice to meet you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Good. So Claire. Oh yeah, you are Claire.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very lovely to meet you.
Okay. Nice to meet
You did a very, very fine job with your pieces. Very, very excellent. And the nicest thing about your playing is that it kind of feels natural when you play. And there's some real music making kind of coming naturally out of your playing. So that's really good. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
So I wrote that essentially you just need to keep going and don't change too many things. You just want to keep progressing, you know, in your repertoire. Do you do any etudes or exercises, or do you only study pieces?
I do etudes and exercises.
Okay, good. So keep going with exercises, with etudes, you know, studies, and of course the repertoire. And I think everything is going to be just fine. Okay, so now I have one technical suggestion for you, which is that you tend to grab your bow a little bit with your index finger, like this. So it would be better if the index finger is just kind of sitting naturally on the stick, you know, rather than curving it around too much. Let's see, what else did I write? Oh yeah, and the pinky should always be round, you see. And your pinky can be round when you place it next to the ring finger, you see. If your pinky is out a little bit too far, you see how it becomes straight? You want to avoid that. Round, and the index finger not too much like a hook, okay, but kind of just sitting there very, very naturally. Because then the sound will be, I think, more beautiful, will be more elegant. And yep, so one more suggestion. The way that you stand, I think you're a little bit leaning over to the left. So you want to make sure you stand up kind of straight. It's not terrible. You're not completely like a croissant, but you want to stand up ideally more straight, you know. So you stand up without your violin, then you bring your violin to you. And you see, don't change too much. Some people, when they stand normally, as soon as they bring the violin, they do this. So you want to avoid that. So standing up straight, index and round pinky. Those are my 3 suggestions.
Okay.
All right. It was very nice to meet you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Claire. And next we have, now can you tell me how to pronounce your name? Is it Portia?
Portia.
Portia. Okay, it's Portia. Good. So we have Vivaldi, the A minor concerto, and Kreutzer number 2. Yeah, so good job, especially on your bow distribution. So especially in the Vivaldi, when you started, you have notes that are shorter and softer, and then you have notes that have more bow and are louder, and this sort of variety is very, very good. I really like that.
Thank you.
Excellent. So the music is always lively and always changing and never boring, which is really good. So you do that well with the bow. Now in the dynamics, you can show that much more. So that it's not all the same loudness. It's soft and then louder, soft and louder. But since you have such a good bow arm, I think that should be no problem to do. So let me see if I can show that a little bit. If I can find my Vivaldi. A minor. There. So I'll take a phrase. So you see that this sort of variety in the dynamics, if you can have a little bit more of that, okay? Let me read a little bit further in my comments. Oh yeah, the vibrato. So how old are you?
8.
You're also 8 years old. Okay, good. So again, it's time to start vibrating a little bit. And you know, you can take a few months to learn it if you're very, very organized about it, and I think you're an organized person, then you can learn it really, really well. So if you want to use an arm vibrato, that would be your motion. And then you can add more turns. So that would be your arm vibrato. And you see, you can practice that with a metronome or counting the notes. And if you do a wrist vibrato or hand vibrato, that means you're only moving this part, not the entire arm, but only this. So then you would do that in 5th position. see, I don't move my arm. So those are your two different kinds of vibrato on the violin, and one is not better than the other. So maybe your teacher will eventually show you how to do hand or arm vibrato, and it will add a lot of beauty to the sound too, right? Good, but good job. I think you played beautifully.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and now we have more young contestants. So that next would be Ava. And then our last one, which is Joy. Ava, you're here, right? Hi, Ava. Now, tell me, how old are you?
6.
You're 6, so you might be the youngest contestant. And good job. What I very much like about you is that your posture is really good. So you hold your violin really well, and you hold your bow really well, and everything is straight. So good job for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, another good thing is that your bow hand is very, very loose. So whatever your teacher is doing with you, and whenever you're practicing, you're doing the right thing. So well done. Very, very good. Now, my suggestion for you is that you can start playing your pieces with a little bit more energy. And let me show you. So you played Sides Concerto number 5, right?
Yeah.
Let me try and remember how this piece goes. Okay, got my music out. So more energy. For example, these first 3 notes, they have accents on them. Right? You can just move with your arm a little bit faster so that the music comes alive more. And again, energy. You know, that sort of thing. So you're telling, in a way, you're going to tell a story whenever you play the violin. You're not just playing the notes, but you're kind of saying something really important. All right, that's my main suggestions to you, but you did a fine job. And it was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right, good. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, and Joy is ready. That's good. There we go. And so you were in the same category. Now, how old are you?
7.
How old?
7.
7. Okay, good. 7. And you did a very, very, very good job. Let me see. Vivaldi, A minor, and hornpipe. Yes. And what I really like is that you play with a lot of energy and a lot of character, which is good. So you want to always do that when you play music, right? Always show character and play with gutsy energy, which is really good. Okay. Now, when you play the Vivaldi, it sounds a little bit like you're putting an accent at the beginning of almost each bow stroke. Don't do that too much. Okay, so because if too many notes have an accent, then the music, the musical line, you kind of lose that. So if I put no accents, that's kind of a little boring. But if you put an accent on every note, then there's so much energy on every single note that we're losing a little bit, the line. So something in between would be good. Line, but a little bit of accent or a little bit of emphasis. So kind of combine the two. So you see what I mean? There's a variety of notes. Some notes are strong, other notes are less strong, but not chopped. Okay. So that is my main suggestion to you. Now, I've been talking for 2 hours. So your violin and your left hand posture are good, which is great.
Thank you.
Now, the one thing, technically, I think you need to move the wrist of your bow hand more. So that is a little bit tight. And maybe that's why we have a lot of accents. So to make things smoother, you want to use the wrist joint more, and you want to use the finger joints more as well.
Okay.
And again, you can just do open strings, right? And just kind of start moving these things. You can do a simple exercise and just really loosen, put a drop of oil here and a drop of oil here. Imagine, so that things just start being very, very soft in the hand and in the wrist. And
Okay.
that is it. Those are my comments for you. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you, Professor.
You're very welcome. That was it was a lot of talking. Usually at a competition one doesn't talk so much. So
Yeah. I think the contestant will will got a lot of good idea for how to play very well on the future. Now also a little time for pouring time, so you can vote your fan or yourself. Okay, try. And give 1 minute. And if you have any question, you can write down in the Q&A. You can ask Professor. And
that's fine. And maybe I will just go get myself a little bit more water so I have my voice back. And give
okay,
me 1 or 2 minutes and you can do your
okay,
Okay.
okay.
I'll be back.
That's okay. 好，现在大家可以给你们，现在大家可以给大家投票。现在是一个投票时间，你可以给自己投票，也可以给别人投票。哦，再来一次啊！好，请大家再来一次。
Good. I am back. So let's see who's the favorite
No. Okay, this is second time. Okay, roll time. Okay. If you have any question, please you can write down in the Q&A, and I will send the email to your for your comment and score, and the next week. So please check your email. Thank you for Lawrence, Professor. I think today the contestant will get a lot of idea for. Oh, PSA. Thank you for Professor. Okay, if you have any question, you can write down in Q&A. Oh, here I have. How do you Q&A have a question?
Yes, I see it. Okay, how did you overcome? Okay, I should read it for everybody. I don't know if everybody sees it. How did you overcome to not speed up if you have a long song? Yeah, that's a very good question. Did I ever used to rush? I probably did. I'm sure when I was young, my teachers told me, don't rush. And how did I overcome it? I think the easiest solution is probably to play the entire darn piece through with the metronome. And, don't drive yourself crazy. Maybe don't go click, 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 but do a large click, like click, click, like something in half notes rather than in quarter notes or eighth notes, and start to realize how you're getting ahead of the click, and then just kind of work on that and just say, okay, don't rush, don't rush, don't rush. So I think metronome work is a good way of preventing rushing. Other than that, it's hard. It's without a metronome, without a machine sort of telling you where you're speeding up, it's hard to feel it inside, especially when you're young. And you are all very young. And when you're young, you have energy and you want to keep going. So this is not an easy thing, but try the metronome and see if that works. Now, another way is to simply maybe, to play when you play with piano, is to ask your pianist, can you tell me where I'm speeding up? And I'm sure your pianist will say, okay, right here, you see in the music, this is where you were speeding up. And then you do the same place again and you try not to rush. Okay, so that's my answer. It's actually not an easy question. And the solution is not so easy, but try with metronome and see if that helps. And then ask your pianist to tell you. Good. I think there's another question. Okay.
Second question.
Curtis, yes. Oh, thank you. Okay, sound. I have a really good exercise for you, Curtis, and anybody else who wants, which is that Mazur's Etude number 3 that one of the contestants did. So what I do is I give this exercise to my students, and first they have to take just one note and play it as a very, very long note. So you learn how to slow down your bow, and the idea is to play it with a maximum sound. So very, very rich sound. Essentially as loud as you can. And then you take the same note and you start playing, moving your bow a little faster. So if the first speed was maybe 4 beats, now it's just going to be 3 beats. And so you do that a couple of times, and then you do maybe just 2 beats. And you do that a couple of times, and then you do just 1 beat. And finally you pull the bow as fast as you can. And you do that a few times. And then you do the same thing with the next note. So you work on that note first, very, very slow bow. Faster. Until you have a very fast bow. Then you do the same thing with the next note. So you take that Mazur's etude number, opus 36, number 3, and you work on one measure, a few notes like this. And then you're ready to play the etude through. So that's kind of my secret method to get to a really, really strong, rich sound, is to work on individual notes. Just work on one note and then work on another note and then kind of put it together. All right, that is for Curtis. Next question. Does memorizing when you're nervous make it better or worse before a performance? Okay, let me, does memorizing when you're nervous make it better or worse before a performance? Let me, sorry, the thing is moving. For some reason it's moving, but that's okay. How do I know we're gonna, just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, does memorizing when you are nervous make it better or worse? Oh, I see, I understand. Okay, so let's say you're nervous in general when you perform. Is it easier to perform, or are you going to be less nervous if you memorize things than not? Depends on the person. So not everybody's the same. Now, everybody knows though that memorizing is a good thing because it trains your brain and it gets you out of the music and it gets you kind of in touch with the music in a way. So it doesn't mean that memorizing is a bad idea. Okay, memorizing is a good idea, and it can sometimes make it a little harder to perform because you're worrying about not having a memory slip. So it doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it makes you a better musician to practice memorizing. And then I would say, if it's not, you know, the Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow, or you're not playing in Carnegie Hall, it's okay to put the music there if it gives you a peace of mind. So it's okay to play with the music if it calms you down a little bit. But it doesn't mean you should not practice memorizing. So when you're at home, you take a piece of music and you try and try and try, and it gets the juices flowing in your brain, and it makes you a better musician. And then maybe in the last moment, if you feel, oh, I think I'm going to play better with music, then it's okay to put the music there. Okay, so I hope that kind of answers the question, if I understand the question correctly.
Thank you, Professor. Now, and for, oh, sure. Oh, wow. 儿童 A 组是 Emma 3票最高，然后这个儿童 B 组是 Eva 8票，哇 ，good job.
Good.
Thank
Emma
you.
and Eva, they get the, what is it called? The audience prize.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, one more question. Do you have, okay, this is the last question. How do you, yeah, okay, see, last question.
How do you not scratch the sound when playing very, very loud? Right. The easiest way to get to that is to gradually get to a very loud sound. I think the hard thing is if you just go and then it will likely scratch. So you can take your phrase. Let's see who is asking this. Chuan Chen, I don't remember your repertoire. Can you type in what your repertoire was? Maybe I can find it in my list. Chuan Chen. Chuan Chen. Huh. Wait, Claire Chen? Why can I not find you? Okay, need to go through the whole list again. Maybe try using longer bow. Yeah, that's one way. So let me look at your name again. Chuan Chen. Chuan Chen. Because I'm trying to figure out what repertoire you've been playing and maybe demonstrate it with that repertoire. Now I can find Xiao Chen Chen. That is the only Chen. Oh no, there's Claire Chi Yuan Chen. Are you Claire? Air Varie. Okay. Oh yes, the Air Varie. I don't remember that piece very well. It's by reading, I think. Oh yeah, so it's probably Claire asking, right? The reading Air Varie, it's a piece I didn't know, and so I don't have the music here, so I'm sorry. But anyway, I'll demonstrate it maybe with another piece. Any piece, let's say Dvorak Romance. Let's say something that has a lot of energy. Or let's say Bruch Concerto, last movement. How to get there without scratching. So I think the ideal way is to just start very soft and then gradually get more sound. And there's your round sound. So if you start soft and gradually add a little bit of sound, I think you're going to be fine. That's not only with a difficult passage. It can be with something very smooth and easygoing, maybe Beethoven Romance. So start piano, mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo. You see, it didn't scratch because I started gentle and gradually added more sound. So that's number one, is gradual. Number two is make sure your joints are working. And I've told that to many of you students, where sometimes we see stiff arm or stiff wrist or stiff fingers. You want to make sure everything is round, because when things are round, that means you're using your joints. When things are straight, you're not using them, and then it can scratch. So that's my answer for this question, how not to scratch. Okay, I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Professor. I think we'll today all contestants very happy, and you play very well.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I have not practiced much lately because no concerts to play. So, yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that the fingers are still working. more or less.
Yeah. So thank you, Professor. You're talking 2 hours.
You're welcome, Bukochi, I think.
Oh, your
in
Chinese
Chinese.
speak very well.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Well, it was very, very nice to meet all the students, and excellent. Good for all your engagement, and keep going with your lessons and practicing. Music is, of course, an awesome thing. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, thank you. 谢谢今天的各位同学、各位老师还有各位就是父母们、爸爸妈妈们来参加我们的这个 Zoom meeting。然后呢，我非常高兴，就是在这个比赛里面，我们把全球的小朋友都聚集在一起，而且我把全球最优秀的音乐家、艺术家也聚集在我们的这个评委团队。我相信每一次你们进入在 Zoom meeting 的时候，你们都有很多的惊喜，因为每一位评委都这么的出色，而且这么精心的为你们准备你们的每一个视频我相信他们花了很多的时间看你们的视频，然后给你们这些很好的这些提示。我会把这个 video 呢，就是 download 下来，然后呢会放在我们的网站，大家去看 GOCAAmusic.com， 然后下个星期你应该可以在我们网站上面看见这个 video， 所以呢你可以反复看一下，就是老师对你的一些提示，相信你们下一次会更加的出色。好，希望将来有机会可以在现场见到你们的演奏啊！感谢大家的那个参与。然后呢，我现在给大家一个打开你们的声音，然后给你们跟教授说一声谢谢。OK， 我现在打开你们所有的声音。Now all people can talking 。OK， 你们可以跟教授说一声谢谢，对。
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Sure. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
已经过了。
See you next
有人
time.
说要你说的，我让你说你就 Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Abby.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
Sure.
See you.
You're
See you
welcome.
next time. Yeah,
Right.
See you,
And
see you.
I will work on the next round next
Yeah.
week, and I will send you the info.
Yeah. See you next week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.